We are glad to see you again on our channel, and today we're looking at a movie where the city is swallowed up by a strange mist with incredible monsters killing everyone who goes in there. A group of people are trapped in a store. The team, led by David, does not lose hope of survival. David Drayton, an artist, is working on another painting. Suddenly, the electricity is turned off. Outside the window is a thunderstorm and heavy rain. He is with his wife Steph and his son looking out the window. Then the family takes pillows and blankets, goes down to the basement for the night. The next morning, David inspects the site and what the storm did on it. Steph says that there is no food, and her husband asks her to write a list. David throws away the finished painting as it is spoiled. The man says he should call the studio as soon as there's a connection to ask for an extension. Steph says that no one knew that a tree would fly through the window. She remembers that it was this tree that David's grandfather planted. Their son, Billy, runs up to the couple and says that the barn is ruined. He asks his parents to look at it. David and Steph follow their son to the lake and see that the barn is really broken. A tree fell down on it too. They notice a kind of white mist or smoke that is gathered over the lake a little further away near the mountains. David says that it is a mist and finds a logical explanation for the fact that the fog descends from the mountains, as after a storm, there is high humidity. He asks to dress his son and says that he will take the boy to the city and at the same time talk to a neighbor about his tree. David goes to his neighbor, Brent Norton. He shows his damage. A tree fell on a new car. David says his barn is crumpled and asks him to exchange insurer's numbers while expressing pity for the car. Brent says he'll find the number and bring it later and asks for a ride into town. David Drayton, David, his son Billy, and neighbor Brent get into a car and drive to the city. Along the way, they pay attention to the large number of police and military vehicles. The men discuss that the military is stationed on a base in the mountains and is engaged in some sort of missile defense operation. Then they remember that the neighbor says that they have aliens. David sends his son with a neighbor to the store and himself goes to the payphone to call his wife. He discovers that the machine is also not working as the phone. David goes to the store. The girl on the counter tells him that half the employees have not come to work. The power has been cut off, and there are many visitors. David in turn tells her that he and his wife want to visit their friends on Thursday and asks to sit with his son, to which the girl gladly agrees. David finds his son and neighbor in one of the departments. Brent thanks him for his help and goes on his list of products. Billy asks David if they are friends now with a neighbor. Brent Norton. David and Billy are already in the queue at the cashier's office and notice the soldiers entering the store. A couple more police cars pass by the shop and then the fire department. At the same time, a signal is heard, some emergency siren. There's a man running through the parking lot, Dan Miller, bleeding from his nose and looking worried. He runs into the store and tells about something in the fog took another man. He asks them to close the doors. All the people come to the windows of the shop and look out with wonder. One of the visitors inside says, "I'm leaving," and runs to his car. In a moment, a fog covers him, and in a second, everyone hears his scream. Visitors close the doors and stay in the store. Someone suggests that this is a poisonous cloud from the factory, some kind of leak. At that moment, there is some kind of tremor, like an earthquake. All people are scared. One woman says it's the end of the world. The other one says that she has to go because she has children at home. She cries and says that her little son is being looked after by her 6-year-old daughter. She starts to get angry and asks if any of the men are gonna walk the lady home. Nobody agrees. Then the woman, having previously cursed everyone, goes out on the street alone. The staff of the store decide to clean up and tell visitors that the store has medicines. David tries to calm his son. David later leaves his son with his neighbor and her husband and goes to the warehouse to get a blanket to cover Billy. When he gets at the warehouse, he notices the strange blows on the lift door, about which he tells the store worker Ollie Weeks, mechanics Jim and Myron, but no one believes him. Norm decides to open the lift door because they have to clean the exhaust pipe from the generator, and it's outside. David says he doesn't want anything to get in, but the men just laugh at him. Norm lifts the door and shows that there is nothing but mist. However, after a couple of seconds, huge tentacles emerge from the mist. They grab the guy and start dragging him into the mist. David grabs the teenager and tries to get him out, but the man fails. The monster drags the boy into the fog. The men apologize to David for laughing at him. David is in shock. He decides to tell his neighbor Brent Norton, a lawyer, about what he has seen, and the men respond to his words. However, Brent thinks this is all a bad joke. David suggests that he go to the generator and look at the blood and part of the severed tentacle, but Brent says that they need to solve real problems. He says it's probably revenge of David for their last lawsuit. Ollie weaks. A fight ensues between the men, during which Brent says that this time David will definitely go to jail. Despite the lawyer's distrust, David calls all visitors to him and makes an announcement. He tells them what happened. The male employee of the store doesn't believe what they're saying and says they're just drunk. David and the others then lead him to the generator and show the severed part of the tentacle. The man returns to the audience and says that there are serious problems. People in the store start putting bags near windows, barricading them in this way, gluing cracks in the glass. There is a woman who is very devout and speaks to God by candlelight, Mrs. Carmody. Amanda Dunphy finds her when she goes to the toilet and offers her help if the woman needs someone to talk to. However, she is only insulted in return. The believer starts telling all visitors about her God, and Amanda slaps her. Ollie supports the girl and tells the woman to shut up, or she'll tape her mouth shut. Amanda Dunphy. Visitors think about what to do and how to defend themselves. One of the visitors, Cornell, says he has a shotgun in his car. Amanda pulls out a revolver and ammo, and Ollie reveals that he can shoot. Brent says that he is going to leave without believing anything. Then one man, a man in a leather jacket, volunteers to go and get a shotgun. David asks him to tie a rope and asks Brent if he can talk him out of it. Brent replies that there is nothing there and promises people to bring help. Brent and a few others are out on the street. The man in the leather jacket is also heading for the shotgun. David and the other men are holding the rope. Suddenly the rope tightens sharply, cuts their hands, but they do not let go. David and the others with effort hold it. Then they start pulling the rope back. Part of the rope is covered with blood. The men see through the fog the bloody half of the man's body tied to a rope. The electricians set up the bright lights in the shop and say it will last 5-10 minutes. David says to use it in case of emergency if the thing comes crawling in. The girl from the box office, Sally, is talking to one officer, Vane. The girl asks why he did not ask her out, because he liked her at school. They kiss, but then they distance themselves from each other, decide just stay together. The people at the store put all the bags of fertilizer and dog food near the windows. Suddenly they notice new monsters, big flying insects, attracted by the light. They flew and sat on the windows from the outside. Suddenly, insects began to be dragged away by other monsters, birds, pterodactyls with large beaks. Monsters begin to break through the windows. One of the insects envelops the neck of Sally. The girl suffocates and loses her life. Chaos and panic begin. People run away from windows, light torches, and scare the monsters with fire. An insect sits on a believing woman, but she begins to read the prayer and the insect flies away without touching her. Billy runs out to find his father and shows up right in front of the pterodactyl monster that Ollie is aiming at. David manages to drag the boy away, and Ollie shoots. When things calm down, David puts his son to bed and talks to Amanda. She says she's seen things that look like they're in a mental ward, to which the man answers not to worry, because they're all in this room. One guy, Joe, was badly burned and asked to be shot. Amanda discovers that Hattie has taken a fatal dose of the drug and lost her life. David is discussing a plan with his team. He says they can get on a SUV and drive south. The team decides to go to the pharmacy for a start to save the life of Joe. At this time, a devout woman, Mrs. Carmody, recruits into her group people. David says that more people can become believers by lunch and he doesn't want to wait for it. David and his team go outside, armed as they can, and go to the pharmacy. They take all the drugs they need, but there are monstrous spiders attacking the team. They take the lives of 2 men. David sees a man, all in a web, and tries to help him, but notices that he has little spiders crawling out of his body. This man is a policeman before losing his life, says that everything is because of the military project, Eru. David's team returns to the store with losses. Mrs. Carmody's group is gaining momentum and more people are joining it. David's team thinks they should leave. They decide to find the military and find out about the project, but find only Vane. Together, they go to the warehouse and find there hanged 2 soldiers. The mechanic drags Vane to the people and says that because of the military, it all happens. David's team is small and they cannot help the guy. Mrs. Carmody begins threatening the military, and he reveals that scientists have decided that there are parallel worlds and opened a window into one of them, thus apparently letting the creatures in. Mrs. Carmody says that he is to blame, and her followers stab the military. Then he is pushed out, right to the tentacles. Mrs. Carmody says that today they will not be touched, but tomorrow we'll have to decide again who to sacrifice. The next morning, David's team decides to leave. They quietly head for the exit, but there they are met by Mrs. Carmody. The woman already feels herself the most important. She says that no one leaves. Her followers surround the team with knives. The woman says the next victim will be David's son. The fight begins. Ollie shoots Mrs. Carmody in the stomach and then in the head. Her followers are silent and the team leaves the store. David's team reaches the car, but on the way they lose 3 more people which are dragged by monsters. David, Billy, Amanda, Dan, and Irene leave. David drives the car from memory to his home and sees his wife lost her life because of a spider monster. He cries and remembers that he wanted to fix the window. The man decides just to drive until the fuel runs out. Along the way, the team sees a huge creature, a monster with huge tentacles. Its footsteps create an earthquake. The fuel soon runs out. People look at each other with tears in their eyes. David pulls out a revolver. There are 4 bullets. He shoots and kills all 4, including his son. David starts screaming in despair and tries to shoot himself, but the bullets are gone. The man gets out of the car, waiting for the monsters, hears a noise very close. He sees military equipment, tanks, the military themselves, coming out of the fog. They begin to clear the area from monsters, burn the ground. David also notices the same woman who left the store the first with her 2 children. David utters "how" in horror. He realizes how close the help was and what he did. This is an American film, The Mist, directed and written by Frank Darabont, in the genres of horror, thriller, and fiction.